Welcome to the Hump Day Hangout podcast by Semantic Mastery, where we answer your local SEO questions every week at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Adam Moody, and my partner at Semantic Mastery, Bradley Benner, will be sharing his decades of expertise based on not only helping others, but running his own agencies and businesses in the space. If you'd like to join us live on YouTube each week, just go to www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. If you'd like to ask a question ahead of time, go to the same link, www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at any time and submit it there. Don't forget, you can get the Semantic Mastery Local SEO Toolkit for free at the same URL. Okay, let's get going with this episode. Welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 539. Today is the 26th of March, 2025, and we are going to jump in and start answering your local SEO questions in just a couple of minutes. Got a couple quick announcements and a couple things we wanted to hit and say hello before we do that. And if you are new to watching these videos and you're probably catching the replay, if you want to be notified about upcoming Hump Day Hangouts, there's two things you can do. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can go to semanticmastery.com, hop on the email list. We send out a lot of great information, stuff from Hump Day Hangouts, the most requested answers to the questions, things like that. So other than that, all I would say is that the best thing to do, if nothing else, is to bookmark or to save the link, semanticmastery.com/HDHO. That way you can ask questions ahead of time. You can talk to AI Bradley. And between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, you can see live and join live, which is also great. I just want to say, too, that if you have questions and you're here live and we need clarification, it's really handy if you're here to answer that, because if we can't understand your question or there's some nuance or something and you're not here, we may have to assume something or skip it if it's incomplete. So if you can join us live, if not, we understand. Doesn't work for everyone. So with that out of the way, let's say hi to the guys and then a couple quick announcements. So Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Been working all week in the labs and other than the gym, obviously. But yeah, busy.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I thought spring was here. I should have known better. I'm in central New York, and spring isn't here until sometimes late May. And so it's been relatively nice last week, and then it started snowing today. So,
Yeah.
but it was nice. It's just a
Yeah.
light snow, and then it stopped, went out for a run, and then came back in. It was snowing again. So, how about you, Bradley?
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for good weather right now. It's that time of year. But yes, it's been very volatile, beautiful for a couple of days and then cold. Beautiful and then cold. But no, things are good, man. It is turning nicer, so that's a good thing. Spring is on the horizon, and that's always a good time because that means it's riding season again, and I'm looking forward to it. And um, I've had a lot of interesting things happen with real estate in the last couple of weeks. I bought a house in Pikeville that I close on April 21st. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I also had my investment property that I bought here in Grundy. Finally got the concrete foundation poured. Now that the weather is turning nicer, the concrete guys finished, got the foundation poured earlier or at the end of last week. And then we had the building set yesterday. So the tiny home was set yesterday in place. So that's great because that means finally I'll get that property finished. Probably take another 8 to 10 weeks to get it fully completed, and then that'll become an income producing property. So pretty interested and anxious to get going with all those real estate stuff this year after spending a year and a half in this stupid RV. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, well, guys, I wanted to mention we will be releasing the hyperlocal lead system on Monday. We've been talking about this over the past couple of Hump Day Hangouts. I'm not gonna, Bradley, have you given everyone, a full overview, but generally, could you just give them kind of the elevator pitch as far as what this is and who this is for?
Yeah, well, this is for anybody that does local SEO, that is looking to kind of figure out a way to develop a way into your business that can help you to land clients a lot easier. There's a number of reasons why members that join our program talk about landing clients is one of the most difficult things that they find in their business is to just land clients consistently. And a lot of it has to do with not having any confidence in the products or services or their abilities to produce results. If you're not confident in what you're selling, it comes through. It's very clear. It's hard to hide that when you're not confident because it comes through in your tones, your mannerisms, everything. and prospects can smell that like a dog can smell fear. And so you have to have confidence in what you're pitching in order to be effective at selling it. And so the LOG, the local lead generation hero system, is really about how to build lead generation assets, organic only assets, pick one particular industry, identify low competition areas for that industry, and then build local lead generation assets that are organic only assets that are simple websites to build that can be done at kind of at scale. So it's easy to duplicate the structure, and all that has to be changed is the location information. And that way you can build dozens of these sites. And by doing the research up front to identify the low competition areas, and all of this is in the training, it will help you identify the areas that are going to be the most likely to be able to get results for very, very quickly with the least amount of effort and the least amount of resources, investment, etc. And so the whole point of this is to then develop a portfolio of lead generation assets that help you to boost confidence, because then you can use those lead generation assets to point to as a sales tool when you're having a sales conversation with a prospect, a company owner, etc., in the same area as where you've already got an asset that is performing at least fairly well in Google search. Like, in other words, if you develop a site, a website that you rank on organic search only, no, don't have to worry about Google business profiles and all the verification issues and all that bullshit. Just publish a damn site in a low competition area. And when it starts to rank, some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting, right? So some are going to rank, some aren't. But the ones that do start to rank with no additional work or very little additional work, even if they're not ranking fully, but are just outranking the prospects that you're talking to, preferably you have some page one rankings. But then you use that as a tool to then contact company owners or somebody from the company within those areas, and you can point to it in the sales conversation, like, hey, look, we've already got a website in your area that is outranking that is promoting the same products and services that you provide in some of the areas that you provide them, and we don't actually even have a business here, so we can assign this site to you if you decide you want to work with us, and we can do the same for your company too. And so the whole point is to really use those to boost confidence and then use them as sales tools to help start landing more clients. And here's the beautiful part about it, guys. It's about finding clients in low competition areas, so that when you do land the client, you're almost guaranteed to get them results very quickly, because you've identified them as being low competition areas and you already have some assets that you build as a test case to prove that they are indeed low competition areas. And so, in my opinion, that's a much better model, because you make it up, you can charge less, which makes it easier to sell, you can get results with less work, and you can make up for the lack of higher retainer values by just selling more to lower competition areas. In other words, scale it by volume, not by you know, price per client, so to speak. But you can always layer on additional services too for each client, so you can sell them more things too, right? So the whole point of this is really to just help people that struggle to have consistency in their revenue in their business because of lack of consistent lead generation, consistent sales, all of that. This is a way to overcome that. So it's components from the DHA program or the Directory Hybrid Agency program that we're extracting into a separate training suite or bundle that you will get access to as part of the local lead generation hero system. Okay, how'd that do?
Sounds good. Cool.
Right
Guys, anything else before we jump into questions?
No, not that I have, and we have quite a few good questions. So,
All right, let's get going.
all right, very good. Let me grab the screen and we'll jump right into it. Yeah, and anybody that's attending or watching, if you have access to chat, chime in. Let us know that you're here. We always appreciate when there is chat occurring in the chat box on YouTube. Sometimes it's quiet, and I'm like, what the hell did I even bother showing up for? So, but after 10 years of doing this, I'm not going to give up. I'll tell you that. All right, so the first one is from Alex. Alex says, hey, Bradley, could you talk about when we should be using CTR campaigns and if that's still worth doing? Well, it can be if done properly. But the problem is that I still see a lot of people doing CTR incorrectly. And not only that, but Google has gotten a hell of a lot better at determining or validating traffic sources. In other words, Google is looking at the profile that is doing the search and click signals, right, to determine if it's relevant. Google can do that very quickly now. Like, in other words, there are signals that help to tell Google or help Google determine how much value to assign to those search and click signals or the engagement signals, period, right? So in other words, remember guys, as we interact online, there is a profile. Anytime you click one of those cookie consent pop-ups that show up on every goddamn website in the world now that says you agree to the cookies, or you can manage the cookies by selecting which cookies are you're allowing them to insert into your browser and all of that kind of stuff. Most people just accept all, which is giving permission for all the data that website is collecting to be shared with any number of third-party platforms that they see fit. So the point that I'm trying to make is when you're traveling around the web and engaging with content and doing searches, and when you're literally going and visiting physical locations, if you have a Google on your phone, so Google is tracking where you're going, the places you're visiting physically, not just on the web, but where you're literally traveling to, the stores that you frequent, the places that you visit, the content that you engage with, the searches that you perform online. Everything is being tracked. When you click that accept all cookie consent thing on websites, you're then telling the websites that they can collect all the data that's currently already publicly available, as well as any data that they collect while you're on their site can be shared as well, right? Again, so the point is there's a massive amount of data that is being accrued for each one of us as a user profile, so to speak. And so when we engage with stuff, that signal is weighted significantly heavier than some random bot out there that has some crazy sporadic history with no location history of being physically located in that area, right? We can spoof things with proxies and browser geolocators and everything else, but it's very difficult to spoof or to manufacture or to fake history, right? And whether it's a real profile or not. And so CTR can be effective if it's done properly and if it's not overdone, which I see a lot of people still do, which is why I don't recommend setting up CTR campaigns manually. There's a number, if you're going to use a CTR app, there's a number of apps out there that will integrate with things like Search Console, which have their own kind of algorithms that will auto optimize the signal volume. In other words, the quantity of signals that are sent based upon where the particular page URLs are in the search results, how many impressions they get, what their current positioning is, etc. And it kind of modifies all of those, the formula for the search queries, the number of click signals it's going to send, everything based around its current positioning. That way it doesn't appear to be manufactured traffic signals. Manufactured traffic, which Google's getting so much better at being able to determine that. If you are overdoing it and you're sending unnatural signals from unvalidated or unverified traffic sources, that is a clear signal that you are trying to manipulate search performance by manipulating click-through rate and engagement signals. And so it's very important that if you're going to do CTR, that you are, number one, either extremely conservative with it, and number two, that you are also, not overdoing it. And that's why I don't recommend setting them up manually. If you're going to do CTR, use an app that has its own algorithm for auto optimizing the campaign, because those are typically dialed in to where they aren't going to be risky. But in any case, anytime you're using a CTR manipulation app, it is a risky exercise, because here's an example. This was a post published by Joy Hawkins just recently, like within just the last week or two, because I saw it come through as a blog post. And I found it on X right now so I'll share this link in chat, guys. I don't know if this is going to matter to you guys, but she does have an article published on the blog somewhere. I think maybe it's the Sterling Sky blog or whatever it is. That's the same article as this one. I just found it on X when I did a quick search because I saw this question before I started Hump Day Hangout. So I wanted to pull it up. And this is where her and some others have done some testing on CTR stuff. And it's, it can cause problems. It can cause significant problems if you overdo it. And again, most CTR apps are using unvalidated or unverified traffic sources that don't have any actual relevance, like profile history that would indicate to Google that they are actually interested in those products or services or those topics, that content, etc., or that they have, especially for local SEO, any relation to that geographic area, right? And so again, we can spoof some of these metrics, like You can geolocate a browser, and you can use a mobile proxy, which kind of eliminates the necessity of having the cell signal or phone service or whatever originate from that location. Because remember, with mobile, you can be pinging off of a tower that's way far away, but you can geolocate the browser to simulate a search from a particular location. But what about the profile history of the bot that is clicking through that proxy through a geolocated browser? What is the profile history of that bot? Does it have any kind of cookie history of sites that would be relevant to the topic that it's now clicking on? Does it have any location history of physically visiting locations within that same general physical area? Right? These are all questions that there's a clear no to. You can't, like, unless you have an app where you are developing profiles like Google user profiles that then live in a particular city and have waking hours and sleeping hours and engage with, content and physical locations, etc., within that same kind of general physical area, all of that stuff, then those links, that type of CTR activity can be given more weight, more credit, more value, right? But that's difficult to do. Ask me how we know. We've been at that for about 2.5, 3 years, and it's incredibly expensive to build those kind of profiles and to maintain them. It's very difficult. So anyway, like I said, do I use CTRs? Is it still worth doing? Yes, I do. And I use, kind of profiles that we've built up when it's a business with a published street address. I found that obviously the kind of navigation signals, not to driving directions, but actually using the navigation, Google Maps navigation, that helps to perform well again, especially if it's coming from what Google considers to be a verified Google user profile in the same location or area of the business that it's engaging with. If that makes sense. That is a much heavier weighted type of engagement signal than one that's coming through some random bot that has no history that would make it valid and relevant, if that makes clear, if that's clear. So the point that I'm trying to make is I still do some CTR stuff. If depending on whether it's a published street address or not with the GBP will depend on which types of CTR I will use. If I'm going to do a CTR campaign with using the bot or the apps, not the types of profiles that myself and my partners have created, then I will use something like SERP Empire or something that will auto optimize the campaign. But I always keep the kind of I always wanted to make sure that we're being extremely conservative. And if you're going to be doing CTR, the most important thing, in my opinion, are brand search queries, branded search and click queries or signals, which those are the most important, not keywords. If you want to start pushing on keywords with CTR, you append or modify the brand search to include a keyword, right? So that's what I call a compound query or a compound anchor when you're building links, which is a brand plus, meaning brand plus a location modifier or brand plus a product or service keyword, something like that. But again, you should be focusing almost entirely on branded signals, not keyword signals, guys. Okay. But in any case, like I said, verified Google traffic or validated traffic sources is going to be the better way to do it. And Google is continually evolving and getting better at determining what is spoofed traffic and signals versus what is real. Okay. Anyway, good question. Moving on. Zypha says, as Google takes time removing old content from its index, will there be duplicate content issues when changing LLG root and subdomains as it got a penalty? No, because it's not duplicate content if it's on a different domain. It's only duplicate content if it's on the same domain. Do you understand? So if you're changing the domain, it's not duplicate content. There's an original and copies. So you have a copy of the original, but the original is now down. If you take the site down, it's down. It doesn't resolve. Even if it's still in Google's index, the site is down. So it's no longer a copy where there was an original copy. An original copy occurs when the original is still present, published, live on the web. Does that make sense? Then so no. However, there is something that this question sparked an idea that I've not tested, but I would think it would be interesting to test. And somebody here on this call, on the webinar, may know the answer to this. I don't, and I'm curious about it. But that is, I don't know if you guys are aware, but in Search Console, you can in settings, you can do a change of address. I'm curious because I've never done it. If a domain catches an algorithmic penalty and then you change the domain, I've never done the change address with Search Console from a penalized domain to a new domain. That's the question that I have. I've done the change of address multiple times when I'm just changing the domain of a website from one domain to another, where there was no penalty applied. And I've done a number of domain changes when an algorithmic penalty has been applied, but I've never done the change of address option. And I'm curious, I don't know this, and I'm not telling you to do it. I think it would be a good test, but it would be interesting to see if a domain that caught an algorithmic penalty, if you then change the domain and you did a change of address in Search Console, will the penalty then pass? And that's again, I don't know the answer to that. Somebody else might. I don't. I think it would be an interesting test. Because I do recommend when changing domains from one domain to another for sites that aren't penalized, that if you've had it in Search Console, that you do the change of address process. So anyway, I just pointed that out because I thought that was interesting. I pulled this up just to show that might be an option that you can do, but when you have content across two different domains, it is not duplicate. It's a duplicate issue when when there's copies of the content or a page on the same domain, if that makes sense. It's like, think about this. What are press releases, right? Press releases would be duplicate content if that were really a thing across multiple domains, but they're not. Press releases, there's the original, and then there's the copies. The original is always what is cited in the distribution pickup points. That's why most press releases, distribution companies, wherever the press release originates, the original publication point will then be cited at the beginning of all the press releases and all the pickups, all the other syndication points. If that makes sense. So it's not a duplicate content issue. It is a penalty issue, and if you have originals and copies, and if the original is no longer live on the web, and then it's just the copies, then it's not going to be an issue. Like I said, I would still do if you haven't built any links to the domain that your reader that you have replaced, then there's no need to do any sort of a redirect. Okay. I've done redirects from the penalized domain to the new domain, and it did not pass the penalty. Just to be clear. That's why I was curious if doing the change of address option in Search Console would pass the penalty or not. And that's a question I don't know. It would be interesting to test that, though. So anyway, moving on. It's a good question. Yeah, once you have the new domain, I don't know if you're doing in WordPress, I would need to copy the old root domain and subdomain sites to new subdomain sites, then delete the old sites and submit the new ones for indexing. Yeah, and that's fine, but that's not a duplicate content issue, and it should not cause any problems, just to be clear. All right, moving on. Next one says, what anchor text do you use for the first topical niche edit to the LOG root domain? A brand anchor. Always, guys. I don't know how to be any clearer about this, and I'm not picking on you who's IFA, but I mean, for 2 years, guys, I've been talking about branding. Brand strength is the most important thing, in my opinion, in local SEO right now. That and site efficiency. Those two things. Brand strength and site efficiency. And so, what did I just say for all the stuff of CTR? If you're going to be focusing, if you're going to be doing CTR manipulation, what should you focus on? Brand signals. When you're building links, what should you be focusing on? Brand anchors. Guys, again, it's all about brand. So if you're going to be building links, do brand. Start with a brand anchor. Then you can work in compound anchors. Again, brand plus location modifiers, brand plus keywords for products or services that the company uses. Like, for example, Felling Pro. Felling Pro is the official name is Felling Pro Tree Services, right? Felling Pro Tree Services. So we use variants: Felling Pro Tree Services, Felling Pro Tree Care, Felling Pro Tree Removal, Felling Pro Arborist, Felling Pro Plus Cities, Felling Pro Plus Counties, all of that kind of stuff. Do you get it? So it's all about using brand anchors as much as possible. Not keyword anchors, brand anchors. Okay? And again, you can add keywords to the brand anchor when you're building links. So that way you're still getting the keyword anchor, but it's still a brand anchor, right? So very, very important, guys. Focus on brand. I'm telling you, I've said this 1,000 times on Hump Day Hangouts. We do competitive link analysis reports for every client every single month that's under an active subscription. And we've been doing that for over 3 years. And we manage over 170 Google business campaigns right now, like subscription monthly campaigns. No kidding. And every single month, we refresh the competitive link analysis reports for any of the search queries that we analyze. Right? So most of them is 3 search queries per report. And so think about how much data we have for the top ranked competitor backlink profile information for local search queries. And 90% plus of every single local search query that we analyze shows the average anchor text ratio for the top 5 ranked competitors is in the brand category, the brand anchor text type. Do you understand? So again, I'm not that is not hyperbole, guys. I am not exaggerating. 90% plus of every local search query that we analyze for 3 years now in a row, the average anchor text ratios for the top ranked competitors for local search queries is primarily in the brand/URL anchor text type. What does that tell you? What types of links should you be building or anchor text should you be building? What should you be focusing on? Brand. It's like plain as day. The homepage should be optimized for the brand first before anything else. The homepage should be about the brand. When building links, it doesn't matter which page you're building links to. Build links with brand anchors. Again, if it's a specific product or service page, do brand plus the product or service name. If it's a specific location page, do brand plus the location name, right? But do brand anchors. Same thing with CTR. Do branded search and click signals. Guys, you should be trying to improve the brand strength of the campaign. That should be first and foremost. That's, again, entity analysis is the first step in our Mindful SEO audit. Why? Because we want to determine how well developed is the knowledge graph for that specific branded location. In other words, how strong is the brand in Google search results? That's why you do a brand search with a geolocated browser. And what the minimum should be, a minimum, in my opinion, is 80% of the top 2 pages, which is 16 or greater of the top 20 results, should be specifically referencing. When you do a brand search with the geolocated browser, they should, the first 2 pages of Google search results minimum should be entirely populated or almost entirely populated with page URLs that are specifically referencing that particular business location, branded business location. And if you don't own the top 2 pages almost entirely, then that should be step number 1 before you do anything else for your client. It should be to build brand authority, which can be done very quickly, guys. When doing, build additional branded assets, and then you spoon feed that data back to Google. Same as attributes in local business schema, right? Linking to them from Google Business Posts. Again, guys, that's a direct linked connection from the GBP to page URLs that validate the data that was submitted to the GBP, right? Do you understand, guys? Look at a Google Business Profile. Let's just do this really quickly. Albemarle Felling Pro. My Louisville Felling Pro GBP is in re-verification status. It's an unpublished re-verification status. It just occurred in the last 3 days, and I didn't make any changes to it whatsoever. So this is one of those random re-verification issues with the GBP, and I will not be able to re-verify it. And I'm sick about it. That's why I don't like doing any sort of GBP on spammed Google Business Profiles anymore, because it's Louisville Felling Pro. I've used that as an example project for 2 years, and it was a spammed listing, no question. And now it's in re-verification status, which means I won't get it back. So my GBP for that is gone. This is one that I still have access to. Anyway, Albemarle Felling Pro, if we go take a look at this, guys, like, do you understand? Like, look at, when you verify a GBP, when you register and verify a GBP, you are telling Google who the business is, that's the name, what they do, that's the Google business categories, and where they do it, that's the location. Now, this one has an unpublished street address, so it's not showing. But when you verify the GBP, you are telling Google who the business is, what they do through the Google business categories, and where they do it through the location that it's verified to, physically located in. Does that make sense? And so we should be repeating and reinforcing that any which way that we can, and providing Google with validating data points that corroborate that information. Google tries to do that on its own, guys, but it's very inefficient. Because, and again, think about specifically the helpful content update. The Google's been out like 2 massive launches or rollouts of the helpful content update in 2 years, right? I think 2023 was the first one, and in 2024 or 2022 and 2023. Anyway, whatever, because it's hard to keep up with all the goddamn algorithm updates now. But there was 2 major kind of rollouts of that, and that has to do with specifically rewarding sites that are efficient and use less of Google's resources, right? And so, if Google's come out and said that very publicly, and that's part of what we understand about the helpful content update, then having leaving Google to its own to crawl the entire web now, especially with large language models, AI writing assistants, etc., and this explosion of content and page URLs on the web that Google has been very public about. They're having a difficult time keeping up with crawling and indexing everything because of the speed with which stuff is being created now. So if Google's come out and very publicly stated that, then why would anybody want to leave it up to Google to identify the validating data points on the web that support how we or the business claimed who they are, what they do, and where they do it? Google is looking on the web for validating signals, right? That it can pull those data points into the knowledge graph once it verifies that it's accurate. Well, Google is very inefficient doing that on its own, but we can help Google to develop that knowledge graph using data points that we might even be manufacturing those data points, right? In other words, publishing content places where we're referencing or citing the source, name, address, phone number, and website, or some combination of those data points. So we can literally go out and manufacture data points and then basically force feed that back to Google so that Google then becomes aware of it and pulls that data into the knowledge graph, thereby increasing brand strength, brand authority, etc. Right? So, but I still see all the time that people don't do that. SEOs don't do that. Why are you not building more profiles? Why are you not referencing those profiles and citations, et cetera, within same as attributes? Why are you not linking to them with GB posts, right? Building links to an ID page, which is a centralized resource where all of that corroborating information is consolidated, right? That becomes a dedicated resource specifically with the intent to tell the search engines that that is where they can go to validate local branded location information, right? So use the ID page. Make that a critical component of your local SEO campaigns. I'm telling you all these things because that's all about building brand authority, guys. And it's about how to help Google to be more efficient at developing the knowledge graph that it's already developing, but very inefficiently left to its own devices. We can assist with that very, very efficiently. And you can do it very quickly too. So that's why I'm saying, anytime you're going to build a link to anything for the first link, go with a brand anchor. It should always be about promoting the brand, in my opinion. Keywords are secondary to brand promotion. Okay? And that's how it should be, in my opinion. Like I'm glad that it has moved in that direction. I'm not kidding, because I feel like what we used to do as SEOs was just so damn spammy. And we did it because that's what was necessary. But now we don't have to do that anymore. Focus on the brand. And I think that is a much better way to do SEO anyway, really. It's more natural, in my opinion. Right? And it rewards strong brands. So does Google. Rob says, is it safe to use the same GSC or Google Search Console account for both money domain and ID page? Yeah, you can. That's not a problem, because an ID page is a brand asset. So it doesn't make sense to want to split that up across multiple Google Search Console accounts. But my question is, why bother trying to submit the ID page? You know, it depends on how you have your ID page. Guys, an ID page does not have to be a cloud page on a cloud storage bucket. I use Amazon S3 ever since 2019 when I developed the ID page process or method. And I've been using it ever since. And I don't change from that. But you can publish an ID page on a subdomain, for example, of the root domain, or an inner page of the main site if you want. It doesn't matter where you publish it. Why do we do it on cloud pages? Because it's a way to inherit some of the authority from the strong domain, the Amazon S3 AWS domain, if that makes sense. It's just a way to kind of, absorb some of the domain authority. And in this case, I mean the authority of the domain, but also Moz's domain authority metric too, that too, right? DR, etc. All of those are things that you can inherit by having it published on a high authority. And by the way, it also, when link building, because I'm a lot more aggressive to link building to an ID page than I would be to the money site. And so that's another reason to have it on a really high authority domain like Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud Storage. Any one of those, it doesn't matter. The point is to have the high domain or high authority property, cloud storage bucket, whatever, so that you can be a lot more aggressive with link building, link velocity, etc. You can be a lot more aggressive. If you're doing it on like a money site or something like that, where you have the ID page as a dedicated page on the site, which is perfectly acceptable, you'd have to be a lot more careful about building links to it, etc. So anyway, the point that I'm making is the ID page is a branded asset. It is one of what I consider the three primary components that make up the local entity, or what I call a tier 0 asset. Just for demonstration purposes, Let's just jump over here and I'll show you my diagram, right? This is my local link building diagram. So the 3 tier 0 assets are the components that make up the local entity as it relates to local campaigns. The money side of the self-hosted site is the organic side of the local entity. The Google Business Profile is the maps side of the local entity. The ID page is the bridge or the connector that connects organic to maps. The Google Business website used to be that 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 asset, right? Think about it, guys. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, there used to be a Google Business website, which was a single page landing page that you built inside the Google Business Profile, right? It was an organic asset that you got a website URL for that would rank an organic search, but you built it as part of the Google Business Profile. So that was a direct connection, a bridge, a connector between organic and maps. And it was given to us by Google. That's why I used the shit out of that, man, for years. That was one of the primary things that we did was optimize the hell out of the GB website, excuse me, and in published posts because we would get inner post page URLs from the post from the GB website. You get these inner page URLs that were do follow links. You could build links to them. You could build silos or do link wheels and all kinds of cool stuff with Google Business websites. And I'm still doing the ID page too, but that was the fourth entity component. But then Google got rid of in March of last year, Google sunsetted the GB websites. It got rid of them. And so the ID page became the perfect replacement for that primary third entity component, which is again the connector between the two. Well, why do I say it's a connector between the two? Well, because if you take a look at it, with the ID page, here's an example ID page. By the way, that's a semantic triple statement in the SEO title, which is an entity association statement, which is how we should be optimizing all top level pages, right? We should and the brand name should be included and the SEO title for all top level pages, period. Like that, I see again, guys, I do 5 to 7 audits a week, and it's been like that for over a year now, I believe. It's nuts how many freaking audits I do, and I just can't tell you how many audits I do from SEOs that when we're on the sales call and they tell me, that our on page is pretty tight. They all say that. Everybody says that. Our on page is pretty tight. We're really good at on page. And then I go audit a property and they don't even mention the brand name in the SEO title of the homepage, right? Like, are you kidding? Or they have 5 different versions of the brand name on different, so in other words, different pages will use different variants of the name. Why would anybody do that and confuse Google about what the actual brand name is? That doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. Or squeeze keywords into every single SEO title, including the About Us page, privacy, disclaimer, terms of service, keywords in there that are now causing that page to compete with other top-level product or service pages on the site. Why? Why do people do that? I don't understand that. But in any case, the ID page, again, semantic triple statement. This is who the business is. This is what they do. This is where they do it. You're associating the brand entity with the product or service entities and the location entity or entities, depending. And again, the homepage should be optimized for the broadest terms possible. And then you should have inner pages that are adding specificity to that statement that should support that statement, right? Corroborate, validate the statement that is semantic triple statement, entity association statement that is made on the home page. Then every page should also have that entity association statement. In some cases, you might omit location entities. So it's just brand and service. But it's important to always make that association. That is how Google starts to associate those product or services with the brand and the locations with the brand. It's by always having the brand name present with its proper brand name, not multiple variants of the brand name, because that confuses Google as to what is the appropriate version of the name. So you always want to provide agreement and validate and support the proper data as much as possible, right? And so the ID page then again becomes a very critical component because we have all the consolidated assets that are external page URLs that have accurate information published about the business. They're all referenced in the ID page, right? And then we also have, back to the connector thing that I was talking about, we have the Google Business Profile map embed on this page, name, address, phone number, website information, links to the product or service pages. Also from this page, you can link to the supporting location pages. That was not done on this one, but it could be. We could have another row of links over here that would link to the other locations that are supported from this GBP or that are served from this GBP. But then specifically, if we go to the schema validator, we're going to go take a look at the website. the location landing page, which is where the local business schema goes. In this case, it's going to be home and construction business schema. And this is where the ad ID field is. So again, I'm getting back to the point here is the question was, should we have different Search Console accounts for different for the money site and the ID page? No, because it's part of the local entity. Do you get it? Like, and I'm not picking on you, man, but what I'm saying is like, think about it. The ID page is an asset that is literally built. It's a dedicated resource that tells the search engines that that is where they can go to validate that branded location information. That is what it is for. And so it's part of the brand. So it's not like building PBN links where you want to kind of separate everything. It's not like that. You want to claim your branded footprint, not hide the footprint. You want to claim it. You want to announce it. You want to broadcast it and magnify, amplify the footprint. That's the whole point of adding branded and supporting profiles, right? Branded and supporting assets, and then interlinking, referencing them as same as attributes within the local business schema. All of that is specifically to claim and amplify the branded footprint, not hide it. You get it? So that's why I said it's, again, you definitely want to, but the other thing is, why bother? Then I was getting to that point. Why bother putting the ID page in the search console? I get that question a lot. Like, I'm having trouble indexing my ID page. Don't worry about it. Like, if you link to it from Google Business Posts from the GBP, right? Link to it often. It'll index in time. Don't worry about it. Submit it for indexing via an indexer, because it's a pain in the ass to index or to submit an ID page on like a cloud storage bucket. It can be a real pain in the ass to submit them to Search Console anyway. So I don't even bother. Just so you know, I don't submit my ID pages for my clients to Search Console, guys. I don't. We link to them. We put it in the ad ID field of the structured data, which is precisely where it should go. And we build links to them, and then we link out to them from Google Business Posts consistently and regularly. And I use the ID page as a primary link building target for press releases too. And we publish at least one press release for my clients on a monthly basis. So within a month or two, your ID page will index without it being included in Search Console. So I don't bother with that, just so you know. All right. It's not needed. As a matter of fact, let's just kind of pull this up real quick, because it sucks that my GBP, I'm so used to that though, but for Louisville Felling Pro, I just actually canceled my link building subscription to this campaign and everything else, because I'm just going to let this one go. The GBP is gone. But look what ranks number 2 for the search, for the branded search. It's the ID page. This ID page is not listed in Search Console. I don't have this ID page. Look, the map's going to be broken at the bottom. Just a blank map. Son of a bitch. God damn it. I'm so angry about that, because I did nothing to the GBP and it was fine. And then just boom, re-verification status, which is again precisely why I'm trying to tell everybody that listens to us at Semantic Mastery, so anybody in our audience, stop messing with fake GBPs. It's just not worth it, guys. It's not worth it. The whole directory hybrid agency program is developed so that we can get away from having to worry about using GBPs that aren't registered real valid business locations, so that we stop doing a ton of work, spending a ton of time, effort, resources, money, energy, etc., on something that at any moment, for no valid reason other than it's a spammed listing, that's a valid reason, but for no reason that we can tell, Google just pulls the rug out from underneath you. That just that irritates the shit out of me, right? I hate that more than anything. So that's why I teach about not doing GBP stuff. But right there's the ID page, ranks number 2 for the brand search, guys. In my opinion, that's how it should be. When you do a branded search, the money site should rank first. The ID page should rank second. If done properly, and if you build authority through the ID page, that's how it should work, in my opinion. Okay. Good question. Moving on. Rob says, is it normal that tools like Majestic and SEMrush do not pick up backlinks to the ID page URL on ADS? No, they do. Again, they do. So let's go take a look at it. I actually pulled up the Albemarle Felling Pro ID page right there. This is Majestic. Well, let me rephrase the question. Majestic and SEMrush. Okay. I can't. SEMrush should for sure, because anybody that uses SEMrush for backlink analysis, first of all, why? SEMrush is the worst backlink analysis application known to man, in my opinion. It's terrible, in my opinion, because it shows absolute everything, even all the garbage links and everything that like are just being completely ignored by Google anyways. And it also shows toxicity score, which I think is way overly sensitive. I think SEMrush is terrible for backlink analysis personally. I only use Majestic for backlink analysis because of the topical trust flow metric. That's what matters to me is the relevance. And then trust flow becomes an important metric if the backlinks are relevant. I don't really care about any other metrics or anything else either, just to be clear. But again, this just proves, and I'm not trying to gotcha or disprove you, I'm just stating it absolutely will show the backlinks that are built to it. Right? If the backlinks aren't being picked up, maybe the backlinks aren't being recognized by the app, whichever app you're using. Which, by the way, if you're using Majestic, there is the submit URLs. So if you want Majestic to show you the data, you can take the backlinks that you were building to a particular target URL and you can submit them right here and click submit for crawling. And within about 24 hours, you will then see those backlinks pointing to the target URL, if that makes sense. Okay, but that's an S3 page, ID page. This shows 101 backlinks built to it, right? And look at the topical relevance. That's a relevant category for a tree service contractor, right? Next, James says, I finished building a directory for my accountants and have a validated list of emails. Can you go over your 5 email sequence for directory listing outreach? I can tell you conceptually, but I'm not going to give that away here when that is something that we provide to our mastermind members. Again, you're welcome to join the mastermind, James, and I'll give you everything, all the sequences, the snapshots, the SOPs for how to set everything up and manage it and all of that. That's all part of the mastermind. Okay. So I'm not going to give that away here, but I can talk about basically it's 5 email sequence. We do it every other day. So for 10 days. And here, I'll just give you a quick example of what it looks like from inside the emailing app that we use, which is Instantly, so that you can see it. But, and I'll explain the concepts briefly of the sequence. Like this one currently, this one right here, out of about 860 contacts, we've contacted about 493 of them. If we just go to the last, let's go to the last 4 weeks. This is a newer campaign that we had just recently set up. God damn it. Why is this not scrolling? There it is. So we can see that here. If we look at the activity, let's see, I was trying to look at the open rate opportunities 25. So we've had 25 opportunities come from that. So that's, what is that, about 5%? 5%. Those are actual leads, okay, that have come through from that. So anyways, let's go into this. This is acting weird. We'll go into the sequence. Here we go. So here it is. I've got 5 emails. They're every other day apart. So it's across 10 days. Instantly, we can add spin tax. It's Instantly's own version of spin tax. But basically what I'm asking is we send out the email saying, hey, we are trying, or would you, or we need to verify. Would you verify? We are trying to verify. Again, you want to add spin tax when possible if you're doing a lot of cold emailing so that it makes them more unique. But it basically says, hi, we are trying to confirm or verify your company's contact information. This is for your free directory listing on treecarehq.com. I want to make sure that the company contact information is accurate so that when people looking for tree services in your city, right, all of that can be tokenized with custom values, short codes, whatever, that the consumers can have the accurate information so they can contact you to request an estimate. Here's what we have so far. And notice how the website value is missing. That is intentional. We do that intentional. Look at sequence email number 2, email number 3, right? We leave that out intentionally because that gives them a reason to reply back to us and say, hey, and we get this all the time. Hey, all that information is correct, but it's missing my website. Here's my website URL. Well, now we know that we've got direct communication. Within my industry, it's almost always the business owner. Occasionally, it might be the business owner's wife that answers the emails and stuff like that. But the vast majority of the time in my industry, tree service industry, it's direct communication with the business owner. And so they're either going to reply back and say, yes, this information is accurate, but it's missing my website, or no, the phone number has changed, or the service area is incorrect, or whatever. The whole point is all I'm asking them to do is just review this information and reply back to tell us, is it accurate or does it need correcting? And if it needs correcting, provide us with the accurate information. That's it. That's it. So it's a 5 email sequence that is basically saying the same thing 5 times, just with different verbiage, right? It's worded differently, but all basically the same, and it's a 5 email sequence over 10 days. And that's all it's doing is that. And by the way, if you take a look at the signature line, let me show it the preview here. Preview, it should show it. Yeah, there we go. So here's the preview. You see Coastal Tree Services listing needs to be verified. I think this is email number 3. And so there's an example of what it says that, minus the spin tax, because this is just one version. And then it says right here, Bradley Benner, tech specialist at Tree Care HQ, Culpeper, Virginia. And then that's my mobile number, my high-level mobile number, if that makes sense. So we're not approaching them as an SEO or a marketing agency. Do you get that? There's a reason I use that signature line, guys. It's not, and there's a reason I don't have marketing or agency or SEO in my company name, right? Because we don't want them to think that we're an agency or an SEO or anything else. We want them to think that all we're trying to do is contact them to confirm information for their free listing on the directory. And then through that process, once they reply, then we have a series of additional automated communications that continue to carry the conversation forward until the listing delivery, at which point we then request a scheduled appointment to review and deliver the listing. That is the first call, first booked call. That is the start of the sales conversation. And we do all of, so they're not even aware that we're a marketing agency until we get on that first call. And we don't blindside them with it. I tell them right up front, hey, we're going to do 2 things on this call. Number 1, we're going to review your listing to make sure it's accurate and that you're happy with it. And we can make any changes that you want right now on the call. And it's free. There's no cost to this. And number 2, I'm going to show you some issues that we identified while we were optimizing your directory listing that are hurting your online performance and preventing you from getting jobs in the areas that you told us you want to get jobs from. Does it make sense for us to continue this conversation? And I nod my head and I ask that question. And not once have I had a tree contractor say, no, I'm not interested, and hang up. Every time they said, yeah, sure, let's go. Let's continue, whatever. So hopefully that makes sense. It's not a bait and switch. We are providing them something of value. We're making sure they're happy with it. And then we're introducing things that we discovered through the process of looking at their online profile while we were optimizing their listing. We typically always identify room for improvement. That's what we bring to their attention on that call, if that makes sense. So anyway, the 5 email sequence is just the same email, basically reworded, going out 5 times over the course of 10 days. Okay. Moving on. Hosey says, from your last video, it seems like your systems are built around scaling. If my goal is to maintain only 8 to 10K a month, is the DHA model still what you recommend? Not looking to make a fortune, just want to cover my bills and spend my time elsewhere. Yeah, because I mean, it's a fantastic way to get the initiate conversation with your chosen businesses. Typically, it's going to be business owners. Sometimes it might be an executive at the business, depending on what size of companies. Like certain industries are going to have larger companies that might have a board of directors and executives and things like that. And so you might be talking to a VP or something like that. But in a lot of the industries that we target for DHA stuff, it's going to be kind of smaller companies. And in the tree service industry, like I said, it's almost always one crew operations where the business owner is also the person that takes the phone calls and does everything else. All right. And so what I'm saying is it's a consistent way to generate leads and start conversations in whatever industry you choose. It works better that what I teach, the DHA model, works better for service area businesses than it does for storefront businesses, but it can be modified to work for storefront businesses. In any case, it's a great way. Look, you're going to, even if all you want to do is 8 to 10K a month, the challenge is going to be, how do you get to that first, number 1, and how do you maintain that? Because there's always going to be churn in your agency. You will always lose clients at some point. And so you have to have a consistent lead generation system that will keep your pipeline full of leads, so that at any given time that you want to generate more revenue or you have to replace lost revenue, you'll have the contacts, the leads available to pitch your services to. Because the alternative is what I have done myself, and I've seen a lot of other SEOs do that are providing client services. And that is, They only do prospecting long enough to land clients to hit whatever their immediate revenue goals are, cash flow needs are. And then they stop their prospecting and they go into fulfillment mode. And they spend the next 2 or 3 months doing fulfillment and getting those clients up to speed. And then something happens, they lose a client, or maybe they finally get the client up to where it's on coast, like it's on cruise control, because I'm sure you guys know all SEO work is front end heavy, right? We do an enormous amount of work up front. Once it starts to rank, we can typically kind of take our foot off the gas a bit, right? And typically, and still maintain good performance. So you do all that front end work, you get them ranked or whatever, and then now it's time to go back and start generating more revenue. Maybe you have to replace some lost revenue because you lost a client or two during that time, whatever that happens all the time. And now you've got to start that whole machine over again, that whole process. And so there's always the peaks and valleys, right? Feast or famine. So I recommend just you don't have to send out as many emails. We only send out 80 emails a day. I was just showing you guys instantly. If we close this out, we'll go into the schedule. You'll see, excuse me, the options. You'll see I've got 4 email accounts that I'm using to send these cold emails, and we max it out at 80 emails a day. So that's 20 emails per account per day. And we're doing that 7 days a week. That was 80. We're doing that 7 days a week. So if you don't want that many leads coming into your agency, just reduce the number of cold emails per day. That's it. That's all it takes. Do 20 emails a day versus 80. Okay. That's how you modify your lead volume, is by manipulating your sending volume, right? And you'll very quickly figure out, using my process, what type of lead volume you can expect from your campaigns. It doesn't take long to figure that out once you start mailing and you start receiving responses. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. James says, is accountants, CPAs, tax professionals a good niche for local SEO services? Yeah, it can be. And okay, this might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but CPAs and accountants, remember, who are their clients? Business owners. Well, there's also consumers too, but a lot of CPAs, certified public accountants, are, doing business taxes. So if you can do good job, like to provide marketing services and lead generation services for CPAs, tax accountants, etc., like tax professionals that have access to a lot of other businesses, it could open up a huge door for referral business from them. Like, in other words, and again, I tell everybody to niche down, I get it. But what if you had 2 niches, right? Like you had the tax professional niche that you use to then get in with CPAs that have a portfolio of business clients. And then you can, even if like for example, you could, like an HVAC company or something like that, which is typically the companies that have a lot of inventory and things like that, are typically going to use CPAs, right? Tree service contractors a lot of the times don't. And those that, all I'm saying is, you can identify business industries or business verticals that almost always use CPAs, which any successful company is going to use a CPA, right? It's only the solopreneurs that don't think that they can afford a CPA, that try to do taxes themselves, which I learned long, long time ago when I started businesses. Just hire a damn tax professional, because they're worth their weight in gold. The amount of money that they're going to save you on taxes is 100% worth the cost of their services. You get a return on it, really. And so anyway, what I'm saying is, if you have tax professionals as your one, I always tell people to select one niche, but in this case, I would say select 2, because it opens up the opportunity to get access to the CPAs that you were providing services to, their portfolio of business accounts for referral basis. And if you just select one additional industry that is common for them to use CPAs, then you could just tell that your CPA client, hey, do you have any clients in the HVAC industry? Just as an example, I'm using that as an example. Would you mind referring them to me, or referring me to them, or them to me, or both, right? Would you mind making an introduction from me to them? Because that's a great way to land a hell of guys. Referrals are the easiest closes you'll make. And so if you can get a referral from a CPA to another business owner in a different industry for marketing services, it's going to be an easy sale for you, if that makes sense. So yes, that's a good industry. Okay. James says, do you do an example sales call, delivering the listing, building rapport, offering services, etc.? Yeah, I can. I mean, I record those calls anyways. James, if you know what, I'll highlight this one and we can cover that next week because we're out of time. But I can do kind of an example mock call with you guys, or just kind of the sequence of my sales conversation. I'll be a little bit more thorough in explaining that next week. I'll go ahead and leave that one highlighted so that I know that that's one that to pick up on next week. James, last question. How do you validate the emails you get from Outscraper? Well, there's an option in Outscraper to select to check a box, and they'll charge you a fraction of a penny more for each lead or each email to verify it themselves. So, guys, email verification now is integrated into every app just about. Instantly has an email verification option. Outscraper has an email verification option. High Level has an email verification option. If you want to do an email verification for a big list of emails or contact list, excuse me, you can use something like Never Bounce. I mean, these things are a dime a dozen. I've been using Never Bounce for many, many years, so this is the one that I use. But you can use Never Bounce or something like that. But again, an Outscraper when you go to set up a scrape job, one of the options is to check a box to then have Outscraper do email verification for you. And you can then select another checkbox that says only provide the contact if the email can be verified, right? But then again, you can always export that list and import it to Never Bounce and let it do it. When you import it to Instantly, you can have it do it. If you import them in the High Level, you can have it do it. Almost every app has email verification now. All right, so we're done with questions. Anything that I have to address in the comment box if my partners are still here? Which they're not. So it's just me. I'm going to look at the comments, guys, and then we'll wrap up for the day. What's up, Cecilia? What's up, Lincoln? Huzaifa, what's up, buddy? Birmingham, UK. Right on. So it's almost 10. Well, it's 10 o'clock at night over there right now, right? I think. Or 9 o'clock, something. I don't know, with the stupid time change in America, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know it screwed up the difference between UK and us. Trains of thought. Would you use paid social campaigns on social media platforms for brand exposure and specifically brand searches and search and GMB? Yes, you can do that. You can set up social media campaigns. I don't, because I don't do any social media ads at all. I don't at all. But you can do it with Google ads too, with Google display ads. So display network ads, you can actually set up ads and then use a search parameter URL that you use as the target URL. So in other words, you can literally simulate a branded search and click through Google ads through using the display network, display ads, where you set your geographic targeting so that your ads are only displayed to consumers, which are real Google users that are within that defined area, geographic area. And then if you pick an in-market segment or a predefined audience segment from Google, but the in-market segments are great for this because in-market means that is a bucket of Google users that fall within the geographic area that you've specified that have shown Google that that are likely interested. That's why it's called an in-market audience. They're likely interested in the products or services that are in that specific in-market audience segment. So for example, there's home services in-market segment, and then there's subsegments like lawn and landscape services. So if you go like in the tree service industry, and I do this all the time, but I can set up a display ad campaign with a geographic targeting for a radius or specific zip codes or whatever, and then I can set up the ad campaign with an in-market segment for home services, in-market for lawn and landscaping services. And now what that is that ad is only going to show to people that are within that specific defined area and that have expressed an interest recently in, or at least Google has determined that they are likely interested in lawn and landscape services because of the content that they've consumed, the searches that they performed, the locations that they've literally visited physically. Like if they're going to home improvement stores and nurseries, not like for babies, but for like trees and plants and stuff. Like think about it. Then Google puts that Google user into that predefined in-market segment for lawn and landscaping services. And now that ad is only being served to people within a very specific defined area. When they click that ad, what happens? It clicks on a Google URL search query string that takes them to a branded search results page. And then they click through one of those branded search results to the company, which is a search and click signal to a branded asset. Typically, they're going to click through to the knowledge panel or the money site, which is usually going to be at the top of the search results for the branded search. But they could click through again, part of the reason why it's important to have the minimum top 2 pages populated with branded assets or page URLs that are specifically referencing that particular branded location. Because when you do a brand search or a modified PPC click that goes to a branded search query, then that acts like a landing page, right? Because every single URL on that page is going to be ultimately leads back to that company. So again, yes, you can absolutely use ads to do CTR, and that's verified real users. That's verified traffic sources, validated traffic sources. So yes, you can do that. Cecilia said, hold tight on that verification issue, Bradley. There was a re-verification bug recently. A bunch of people have started to see listings reverting back to verified. There's still hope. Well, I appreciate that, Cecilia, because all I did was I canceled the subscription, the link building plan that I had going to that. And I also canceled, or I just deleted all the Bright Local reports, but I haven't removed the listing from my Google Business Profile Manager yet or anything. So I'll leave it up and see if it comes back. I have some that this is crazy. I've had some, like I have one in Winchester that's been in re-verification status for 2 years. It's still published. It still generates leads. I just can't edit it. This one, the Louisville Felling Pro one, is in re-verification status, but it's gone. You can't find it. If you try to visit the map URL, it goes to a blank map. People for his name said, this is great stuff, Bradley. Thanks. You're welcome. What's up, Wayne? Bradley is Ovechkin going to beat Gretzky's goal record this year? Good question. I have no idea. I'm not a hockey fan. Wayne says, have Munchkins interested in renting your upcoming crawl space? What's up, Wayne? All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you guys. We do have a mastermind with Bradley meeting tomorrow, or excuse me, a mastermind with Bradley tomorrow. So mastermind webinar. If anybody's in the mastermind, please attend because I always appreciate the engagement. If not, hey, maybe now's a